All right, so real quick, I wanted to talk about the Williams Brothers accessories, and I use the motors a lot. Um, the Wasp 1/12 scale Wasp engine, just it's just a beautiful kit, and if you're building a warbird in either 1/12 scale or even smaller, you buy two of these, and you can create a double Wasp motor, which was used in a lot of World War II warbirds, other aircraft too. But now that would get a little expensive at about $30 a set for each one of these. But if you're building, something notable or memorable, or you want to showcase the motor, that would be the way to go. And you could mount them back to back, and then just saw off the crankcase, or in fact, you wouldn't even apply the crankcase piece to the rear one. You would just butt it right up against the front one, just offset the cylinders as they did, and you could create a double Wasp engine pretty easily. So Williams Brothers parts, and you have to hunt around for them now. They're not readily available like they used to be at your local hobby shop. They're sold directly by Williams, and then a few other outlets. You might find them online at one or two other places as well. Just a very few shops that keep them in stock anymore. And the other thing is pilot busts, and Park Flyer Plastics is one place to go for a lot of different scales, but it's a pretty simplified, pilot figure. It's not Williams Brothers, which adds a ton of detail. There's a separate piece, clear part, that is for you to fabricate the goggles. So you have a clear piece. I don't know if you can see that. And then what you do is you just make your own strap for it. Usually, what I usually use is just masking tape, just like you would do a seat belt. You just make a headband, and then using white glue, just adhere the painted goggles to the finished pilot figure's face, or put them up in the raised position over the forehead. Either way, so that's helpful. I mean, to be able to find decent pilot figures. I think the 1/12 is the smallest one Williams makes, and it's perfect for this. It would be perfect for this airplane, even though this is a 1/10 airplane. It's kind of, I think it's actually falls somewhere in the middle of 110, 111. So 1/12 scale, you're not talking about a whole big, a huge difference. Now, you probably see that the balsa piece that I added below the shoulders. So the bust is actually pretty short, and is really designed to go in an RC airplane and just sit flush on the artificial floor of the cockpit, over the battery, or actually to sit on top of the battery with double stick tape. But I use them all the time in my models. Now, you can see that if I set him in there, if I was to set the bust in there without the wood extension, obviously it doesn't extend below the side of the cockpit sill. That's why I needed to add the balsa underneath that, so that when I set this in there now, it'll appear to be a full size pilot figure, unless you look right into the cockpit. But without the balsa, you can see where the plastic ends there. That just wouldn't have looked good. So not a good look for our aviator. You look like a shark attack victim propped in there. So we didn't want that. And that's where I added the balsa. And you can see I just slotted and grooved it with my file, just to finish the straps. Which I didn't really need to do that. I'm going to use my straps over his shoulders. The this harness is going to go over the shoulders. That's just tape. It's just taped in there. Just lift it, pull it over his over the shoulders, and make it as though he is strapped in. But that's I just wanted to show you quickly how I did that. And that's just this 1/4 inch balsa, 3 sections of it, just cut to fit under the bust, and then sanded flush all the way around, obviously leaving it a little bit out where the seat belts are, where the belts come over the shoulder there. So that's pretty basic, pretty easy. And then I'll just seal that with the sand and seal. Sand it a few more times, you know, to get rid of the wood grain as much as I can. Not that the wood grain will be a factor in here. In fact, it would add probably to the appearance of the you know, fact that it's a jacket, it's fabric, it's clothing, and that should help a little bit. But at any rate, once I get him situated in there, you can see at 1/12 scale, he looks to be of the correct proportion, even though the aircraft is, you know, quote unquote 1/10 scale. All right, so I just want to show you those couple quick things. We have the map document case installed in the cockpit, and I'll be working on switches and levers for the fuel mixture throttle, and a couple of switch heads for the electrical box down there on the lower right side. And again, that's just a breaker box, probably switches for the circuit breakers for the nav lights, you know, probably a main breaker, that kind of thing. And on the panel, we already have, there's the mag switch over there on the left, and just a couple of random switches, knobs on the right, along with our gauges inside the cockpit there. Haven't done the rudder pedals yet, still kind of debating if I'm going to go with all that. You know, I could, I probably should, but whether or not I will, again, I don't know. Plenty of time to do it. I can drop them in right through there. Still time to drill out for them, drill a hole there, and get them installed. So I'm thinking I'm leaning towards putting rudder pedals in just to complete the cockpit. But there's our intrepid aviator, such as he is for now, and until I you know, can get him installed. That comes later. That's much later, but he's ready. You know, he's been set up. He just needs to be completed, painted, and all that. All right, so that's another small piece of the puzzle. Upper wing, I've got the port panel installed, port wing panel onto the center section. This is the second application of filler on it. You see we cleaned up the connections to the center section there, all the way around. Another application of filler over that. You know, by light and shadow, you might think that there's still a groove there, but there is not. It is rounded and smooth. But one more application will get it of the filler, and that won't be applied until after I get the starboard wing panel installed. Get the right wing panel on there. At that point, an overall application or 2 or 3 of spackle and sanding, and then the sand and seal product, and then a final sanding of that at 400 grit to take that right down and eliminate all the wood grain, get a nice smooth paintable surface, and then we'll start in with the primers. And again, those are sandable primer surface sealer products. The first will be gray. That one gives me a chance to get a look through light and shadow of any voids or areas of concern that need to be sanded a little more thoroughly. Then the white primer will go on, and that'll be sanded down, and then we'll start in with our top coats, our color coat coatings. Okay, I still have to clean up the landing gear a little bit. Couple little areas there of touch up with sanding and shaping. But we're coming along. It is a big model of a small airplane. It's a big, but it's a big airplane kit. Look at that. It's pretty big. And oh, you can see the wing incidents. Let me show you what that looks like now. Let's see if I can fit this in and just give you a quick idea of how that's gonna look. I still need to fabricate wing struts, but you can see that's our wing incidents there. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so you can see there's some dihedral on the top and not on the bottom. And again, I did about a 5 or I think it's more like an 8-degree dihedral on the low wing, just enough to offset the camber the way it sets into the fuselage, so it almost looks like a zero incidence, zero dihedral, even though it does have I'm going to say about 8 degrees of dihedral. I elevated the wingtips close to a ½ inch up off the board from the wing root. When I laid up that lower wing, you see that's a one-piece wing. So about a ½ inch of dihedral is what I put on it, and there it looks almost like zero, which is about what I expected when it was installed. And that's fine. That's what the actual aircraft had. Something that looked like zero. If I hadn't put any on it at all, it would have probably looked like anhedral to the eye, and you don't want that. So you want neutral at worst, and a couple of degrees incidence at best, which is what I was shooting for. So we'll get the right wing panel fabricated, prepped, and then installed onto the wing center section. Make this one complete upper wing. And at that point I'll start fabricating struts, left and right end struts for the wings. Once those are done, I can install the wing to the fuselage, clean up this joint under here, and fill it, using filler to fill it or round it out in here. And yeah, we're proceeding apace, I think is how you'd want to put that. We're getting there, and things are moving along. The airplane should be fine overall. Once I get it completed, I think we'll have a decent looking outcome at this point. Starting to get a better sense of it. So, all right. So updates are coming. More videos for the channel of this project, and then the follow-on project will be the Waddell Williams Type 44 race plane. Probably done in the Gilmore color scheme, similar to what the Air Express looks like. Roscoe Turner also flew in the Cleveland National Air Races and flew the Waddell Williams airplane in the Gilmore paint scheme. That was roughly identical to what he had on the Air Express for just touring. All right, so moving along. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.